IVM.
कृपया ध्यान दीजिए, the language used on the podcast may not be fit for consumption. We warn you, tread carefully. But listen yaar, don't be so conservative. Okay, I just have to say that music is now not a wedding that's taking place. Some people think that we're in the middle of a Sangeet or something. It's not that. It's actually people we paid money to make this thing as a brand for us. And I do apologize. And we keep saying this, if you're an aspiring musician and you've written something, anything will be better than that. Even sounds from the toilet. So please send it to us as quickly as possible. We've got a very talented, very charismatic Anupama Chopra coming on. And I say that because we haven't spoken yet. No, I'm just kidding. She's lovely. But before we do, there's something I want to discuss with everybody. And this is a hygiene tip of the day. Recently, since we spend more time together, my wife and I discovered that people actually wash between the toes, something I've never done in my life. And there's actually dirt between the toes. My wife pointed it out to me. And now I spend a lot of time in the day washing each and every toe. That's between two toes. Literally sounds like a cereal that someone should make. And between each toe, you have an experience. And I have to tell you, between the last toe and the fourth toe, there tends to be the most amount of dirt for some reason, which I can't explain. But this is something most males are unaware of. We don't reach all the way down. You know where we reach to, after which we ignore everything. So look at your toes, clean your toes, and you'll be a better person for it. It's all about attention to detail.
Do you wonder why China does the things that it does? Or want to know how we could improve online privacy? Or perhaps you're thinking about how we can kickstart India's economy? If you'd like to search for the answers to such questions, check out All Things Policy, a daily public policy podcast that covers everything from employment figures to aircraft carriers. Tune in from Monday to Friday for new episodes and fresh takes.
This lady is all about attention to detail, whether it's cinema or the book form or the art form of any kind. Let's welcome her onto our show without that infernal music. Anupama, and now when I say your name like magic, you appear on screen because of tech. Thank you. I do apologize for bringing you out on a Tuesday morning to chat with me, but you've released the book, so it's your fault.
Listen, Cyrus, I am a great lover of laughing, and you've already cracked me up more than you will know. So thank you for having me. This is going to be so much fun.
Does your husband wash between his toes, Anupama?
No, I'm going to have to check.
I'm telling you, men don't know about this. This is one of the secrets women don't share with us till you're 40 years into the damn marriage. You know, I mean, this could have helped me in my line of work or something. You know, I just didn't have this information. And then she points it out to me and I didn't take it seriously. Then I'm sitting alone and going through my toes because flexibility is a problem. So it takes a long time to reach there, pull things out, look at them. And then actually, if there are dirty marks, your skin is actually, once you clean it, is a different color altogether. Because years of toe being neglected. I mean, you talk about minorities and issues in our country and all that. What about toes? Nobody's
What
looking
about
at toes.
toes?
Yeah, somebody should talk about it in Parliament when you get your Rajya Sabha seat, which is very soon, I'm told. Anupama, as usual, you know, I talk too much. So please, any point you want to put your hand up and start screaming, please do. It'll be welcome because our show normally doesn't generate much interest. But thanks to you, I'm hoping some people will come on. Lots to talk about in your life, but we'll start with the book first. This is not the first book. There are many books. There's one on DDLJ. There's one on Sholay. Both films I've luckily seen. And this is called A Place in My Heart. Can I read what the PR person has sent us?
Absolutely.
It's always fun, even for you to hear. A Place in My Heart. I put on my VO voice, Anupama. So, you know, A Place in My Heart is a blend of recommendations and remembrances, nostalgia and narratives. It is a smorgasbord. What the hell is that? Of cinematic delights. Written as Marie Kondo would say, to spark joy. Are you happy with that?
I'm pretty happy. You do a good voice.
Apparently, I mispronounced Smogsboard or Smogsaboard because Kunal Vijayakar, the uneducated actor in my team, is now correcting me from behind as well. So this is not from you. This is from the PR, right?
Well, it's something I wrote for the sort of the blurb of the book, which was then from the PR.
What a horrible start we've had. Anupam, I apologize. I've said all the wrong things. We can end it now. We can just show the book for 15 minutes and everybody be happy. Yeah. So it's called A Place in My Heart. So let's just start with that. Then we'll look back at your life. I mean, now let's give you the bow that you definitely deserve. You are the foremost critic in the country, which is no small thing. We are obsessed with Bollywood films. Your husband is a damn fine and super successful filmmaker who's quite eccentric and I'm sure has Parsi blood. I'll tell you my stories about him later. But let's go with this first. So this is a little departure from Sholay was on Sholay, DDLJ on DDLJ, obviously. But this is like a mix of your experiences across cinema. What is it? You tell us.
It is. It's actually the idea was that to talk about films, but also people and also sort of movie events that have mattered to me. That have and I've done this now, Cyrus, for like 25 plus years. So I'm also using these things to kind of riff on what the biz used to be like, how it's changed, what has happened. So it's kind of a mix of a listicle plus a recommendation, because all the film recos end with where you can actually watch these films. There's also nostalgia. There's also lots of storytelling. So I just wanted to kind of put it all to use and make it valuable in the sense of that I've seen this film and I've loved this film and maybe you like it too. And honestly, Cyrus, I think that's the best any film critic can do, is lead you to movies that you perhaps hadn't thought of. And that's what the book is about.
So, but it would be like a bit of Sophie's choice there, because you'll have to go with only a certain amount of films because of space, etc. And does it also entail the ones you didn't like? Because you've got some very funny cryptic comments over the years, etc. Which I have to tell you, I'm sure you have a loyal audience because of that. That side. Where I won't say it's mean, but it's always in fun, and sometimes it's really funny.
I'll tell you, Cyrus, that people always like the meaner reviews more than they like your more generous raving reviews. I don't know. It's just something that
Human
makes
nature.
us
We're
people.
evil. We're just evil. We put people down and we're happy. Kuch to hai, yes.
My favorite story about this is being at a Bollywood party many moons ago, when there were such things and when I was enthusiastic enough to attend such things. And Javed Akhtar walks into the room and he looks at me standing alone in one corner and he says, "आइए बैठ के किसी की बुराई करते हैं."
Superb.
I was like, "That's
He's
it,
so
burai
funny.
man." He
Yeah.
is
People don't know the
fabulous.
side to him. When you meet him at
Yeah,
airports, he's regaled me for 15, 20 minutes. I've been on the floor. And
yeah.
sarcastic comments. He's actually a great stand-up comedian, but unfortunately, he's just got that dignity attached to his name and all, where he won't be able to do it, I guess. But yeah, he's
He's fab,
hilarious.
and the zaban, na, the lehza, the style of talking
Superb.
is just so
Superb.
elegant. And then he'll
Yeah.
say something that's so funny. So that's
Yeah.
that. Yes, burai is definitely, it travels much further than
But
raving.
I suppose if the film doesn't, I mean, it's not personal ever. I presume at the end
It's
of the day,
not.
it's like when we watch cricket or whatever. You get upset with the cricketer because he played a shot, because you're upset the team lost. It's not because you don't like the cricketer. It's the same thing with you. I don't know why people take it so personally. I understand, of course,
They
careers get
do.
affected to some extent, but what are you supposed to do? You can't sugarcoat everything. Some of them are really funny.
See, what you have to do, Cyrus, as a film critic, and that's the only way you bring value to it, is to bring a level of honesty and integrity. If you're not going to do that, if you're just going to say everything is great, then it doesn't matter. You're just adding more noise, and you're not really providing anything useful to anyone. And I always hope that people understand that it's not personal. There is no bias. There is no agenda. But I also understand, because I'm married to a filmmaker, how hard it is to make a film and how much sweat and labor it takes and how hurtful. It's like a baby, like imagine someone saying something mean about your kid. You
All
would
the time.
respond.
Hmm. All the time. The nicest things they say, they don't look like you. That's like the nicest things they've ever said. Yeah. But no, I agree, because I understand that, it's easy for us when we're listening or watching your reviews and from outside, and when you're inside, it's a personal thing. So here's the question I have to ask you. So do you, when you're writing, do you ever edit yourself thinking, okay, this is too much? Because you said yourself, the whole idea of a sincere review is got to get that balance where you're being honest. And if it's funny to you, it's funny to you. If it's silly to you, it's silly to you. Or do you also say, no, they're human beings and I've got to? I always find that that's a bit of a hard spot for someone like you, wouldn't it be? Where's that
It is.
balance line?
It is. I think the balance, Cyrus, is respect. I don't think you should be disrespectful in your critique, because that's and you can't make it personal. Don't go on. I think about like an actor's looks or something that is just personal and doesn't feel, when you're not speaking to the frame in the film. When you're going outside of it, and it's become tougher and tougher, because honestly, so much of the industry now is so political, it's so polarized. What do you do with your own politics when you're going into a film that doesn't agree with your politics? And so you have to grapple with many things beyond just being knowing somebody, being friends. And I mean, we're not really friends. We don't socialize within the business, but um, the truth is, I've done this for so long that I'm now interviewing the kids of actors I started out interviewing, right? So इतने सालों की relationship है, which does come into play. But for me, I would never ever not say how I truly feel, but I would never be disrespectful.
So what happens if it's one of your family group kind of, like a Raju Hirani or a Baman?
I don't
How would you
review.
distance? You won't review them. That's a
I
good point.
don't. Yeah, Cyrus, I don't
I think that's a
review
great point.
anything. You can't. It's a conflict of interest. That's all it is.
Correct.
You can't do it. Yeah.
So I know sports selectors abroad, when they select teams, if the child of any of the selectors involved, they walk out of the room. In India, it just started happening. Before, they would just select their son. So that's a great thing. I think that's really fair,
You
because how the hell can you be not objective, or then you become guarded and personal, etc. I mean, you're a human being at the end of the day. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Have
No,
you?
no, you can't. So anything the family does, which is also my sister Tanuja Chandra, so I couldn't review Sacred Games
Oh,
because it's
Tanuja's your
based on my
sister. I should do
Tanuja's
my
my sister.
research. What are you saying? You're completely swamped then.
Vikram Chandra, who wrote Sacred Games, is my
What? That's
brother.
right.
Yeah, yeah,
Obviously, because they're brother and
yeah.
sister. Simple physics
Correct.
tells me that brother, sister. Yeah, there you go.
So
What an
all of that is off bounds. Cannot go
highly
there.
acclaimed family, I must say. Hey, Vidhu Vinod Chopra is the least well known now when you look back at it. Yeah, so that's a hugely interesting point. Let's look at the book a little bit. I know it's tough to ask you to take out what you like or don't like, but take us through a couple of memories. Do you want people to go ahead and buy the book and enjoy themselves during the pandemic?
Um, you know, some of my favorite things in the book is the fact that it's not just Hindi cinema. So through
Oh,
the last 2.5, 3 years, I've really kind of discovered cinema that's beyond Bollywood, and there's such amazing work being done out of in Malayalam cinema, in Tamil cinema, uh, Marathi cinema. So uh, I'm really excited about the fact that I can sort of play a little role, a very small role in leading people to these movies. One of my great sort of highlight moments was when I was doing an interview with Mahira Khan, the Pakistani actor. And she said that because she heard me rave about a Malayalam film, she went and found it and is now recommending Malayalam cinema to her friends in Pakistan. And I was like, yes, I did something valuable. So for me, there's Kumbalangi Nights, or there's a Tamil film called Aranya Kandam, which is the first film of Tyagarajan Kumara Raja, who made Super Deluxe, which is just fantastic. And if people can go in there and of course, see the familiar, see Chak De India, and see Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, but also see these titles which perhaps they wouldn't otherwise look at, and then the stories of my experiences, like at the Cannes Film Festival, which is a place I would go to annually pre-pandemic, and hope to resume that, or of rebuilding the Geomami Mumbai Film Festival. Just these stories of being in the trenches as a sort of film activist, if you will. I think those are very interesting.
so Anupama Chopra at a film festival must be like a kid in a candy store. I'm just thinking, I
Fully.
mean, we send you to, say, Venice or one of these fancy ones, or even in India, there's so many now, and it's the happiest day of your life going from place to place.
It is so exciting, Cyrus. It's like you believe that just for those couple of days, and especially in Cannes, right? Because it's different when you're in Mumbai because you live there. There's so much else. You know that there's another thing that exists. But in Cannes, for those few days, you really believe that the only thing that matters is the movies, and that's all you do from 6 in the morning till 12 in the night. I mean, I find it harder and harder to keep up with all, and you FOMO is a constant because you can never see all the films there are to see. You can never sort of interview all the actors and the directors who are out there. But my favorite story from the Cannes Film Festival, and I have to share this with you, is one year, I think it was 2007 or 2008. I was actually on the jury of a certain regard, which is a sort of a competitive. It's a competition section along with the main competition. So, and I'm doing this show for NDTV from Cannes, right? So I'm watching like 2, 3 films a day. Plus, I'm running around interviewing all the L'Oreal ladies and all the Indian action at Cannes. And I'm vegetarian. I'm gluten free. So at that point, there wasn't a lot of veg food there. You can't even pick up those big
Europe was
baguettes.
not for
Uh,
you.
Europe was not for me. And every evening we had to do the red carpet because I was part of the jury. So you had to put on the finery and go and watch whatever film was being premiered. And then one evening after the premiere of Indiana Jones, one I think the fourth or the fifth, I actually just passed out. Okay,
Wow.
I was in this massive Abu Sandeep anarkali outfit. Okay, and everybody, there's like Spielberg and all these durandars of the world in that hall, and I get up to applaud, and I then just slump back into my seat. And thankfully, my husband was with me, and he looked at me. He's like, "Kya hua? The film wasn't so bad."
I know.
And then the paramedics had to be called in. Okay, but this is where it gets really absurd. I still have a piece to camera to do because my crew leaves that night, so I'm actually sitting there half passing out on this wheelchair and saying thank you for watching the show, and whatever, those sign offs that you have to do as television anchors. And it was just fab, and this could only happen at the Cannes Film Festival.
So what was it? Low blood sugar?
It was just not eating enough, and
Wow.
just kind of like
How
not
could you go
sleeping, not
to?
eating.
You're in France. And you're a vegetarian with gluten issues. You could have eaten everything there. Otherwise, everything is for non-gluten and non-vegetarian people. That's such a sad story.
Exactly.
Was Amrish Puri
But
on screen at that point? I think he plays
no,
a villain in one or
no,
two
no.
of
This
them.
is
No,
this is the much much later
later
Indiana
one. Yeah,
Jones. But
yeah.
I learned to pace myself. I learned that food and hydration is key.
Yeah, small things. But the reason you're telling us this story is also because you must have been so excited to be there and doing all these things that food was the last thing on your mind. I know it can happen.
Absolutely,
Uh, and
absolutely.
but what a lovely story. Do you realize? Do you ever think back and think that you're still that girl who loves cinema? Because most people get cynical, like me. I love cinema as a young person, but I don't think I'm that attracted to cinema like I was then. As you grow older, all these other problems, like for me, parking and other issues, but for everybody has their own issues. Some have problems with the government. We love the government. We don't want to get into that. So I'm just thinking, but you've kept that innocence because that's why you can keep writing and keep watching these. And in your heart of hearts, that if you like a film, you like a film. There's no bias involved in that. Just the fact that you love cinema, and if it's good, it's good. So I think that's the key
Yeah,
thing, right? Most of us just get corrupted.
you just it's a passion that has not ebbed in any way. I just really really love the movies, and I think what's helped is uh, a kind of changing of format. So I started out as a print journalist, and I worked for India Today for like 12 years. Then I moved to television. I was with NDTV. Then I did a show for Star World. Now I'm a digital first journalist, which is a different skill set in terms of how quickly you have to respond, in terms of how quick the feedback is. And I think that has really stretched different muscles, and then writing books. So it's never been doing exactly the same thing. And God, yeah, I just love the movies. I don't know. I just love the movies. I love the people who make movies, and it's never gone.
Well, that's why when you look at terrorists, if that's what they really want to do, the person is sort of happy. I hate to use the metaphor, but I'm an idiot. And I'm just thinking that you're so lucky and blessed that you're doing something that even if there was no money and fame attached to it, you'd still do it. Even if you lived in the 60s
Yeah,
or 50s and you had to write a little column and, so hopefully somebody will read it in some small newspaper in the middle of India, you'll still do it. I mean, I think that's just the greatest thing in the world that you have that. They
it
can never
is.
take that away from
It
you.
it is.
You know,
Yeah,
just
and the
everything
thing is,
else.
you don't stop, Cyrus. You don't like the movies, and being a film critic is never you'll never master it, right? You're never like, oh, I am now at the sort of uh,
Cinema is greater
I'm
than
the
you in a
greatest.
sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Movies are always going to be greater than you. There'll always be 200 amazing films you didn't see. So, so you're going to be a
Including Savaria?
student,
Okay, no, just kidding.
including some. No,
Yeah.
but I'm going to be a student, and I always joke that my cutoff is Temur, and when I have to interview Temur is perhaps when I should look at like consider retirement. But no, I won't. I know I'll interview Temur and keep going.
And why not? Why should you retire? The
Yeah,
age cannot wither your cinematic vision. This is wrong, wrong
exactly.
technique. I'm saying that because I've just turned 50, so I have to be careful now. We have to fight for our people at the end of the day.
Yeah,
No, I was just saying, younger people, young. Why do they do this in marketing? All talk to the youth, get young people. I hate young people. They're the worst people ever. They should be thrown out of the country as soon as possible. Nobody under 45 in this country, for God's sake. Let's look back a little bit at the other books as well. So let's can we go back in your life? In the beginning, you mentioned NDTV, but where did it all start for Anupama when she was a young girl? We know you like cinema, but where was that first tryst with being a critic, or sort of looking at things from a purist angle?
Well, it was, I didn't start out as a critic, Cyrus. I started out as a film reporter. And the grand sort of passion really started in the late 80s. So my first film job was with Movie Magazine, which
Yes, I
doesn't
remember.
exist anymore. You remember Movie Magazine,
Oh, and the
right?
dentist's thing, and these were the magazines you had to turn to. Even if you weren't much of a film buff, then you would need something. So
Correct,
yeah, movie
correct.
magazine is very much there.
So
Yeah.
so there was movie and Stardust, Film Fair, Star and Style. Those were the four sort of big magazines, and I got like this cub reporter job at Movie Magazine, and instantly kind of headlong fell in love with the Hindi film industry. Just it was such a
But
chaotic.
as a kid, when you were a young kid, were you into the movies or not? Uh,
We watched movies, but Cyrus, I was a South Bombay snob since Xavier's College. I mean, Cup
oh,
Parade,
you're one of us.
completely.
Come
Of
back home.
course,
Come back home. Where do you live now? Don't say Juhu. Come
I'm
back home.
in
Yeah.
Bandra. I'm in
Oh, that's not
Bandra.
too bad. That's
It's not too
that's as
bad.
far as we allow you to go, huh?
That's right.
So
That's
you're
right.
South.
Back.
So you're one of us. So we sort of look
Of
down on Hindi cinema and didn't watch it and all that. I understand. Coming from the same background. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
and never went past Worli. I mean, if you left Worli, then matlab, who knows what's out there, you know?
It was like being gay in the 70s. You'd be a latent lover. You'd be quiet about it. You have to find a friend who actually watches. I know what you're saying.
Correct.
You can't discuss it in
Correct.
schools. Yeah. Go on.
Yeah. I mean, and so the films we watched were at Excelsior, Regal, Sterling.
There you
The
go.
Hollywood films in the Angrezi theaters were
Right.
was the life. But and even though my mom Kamna Chandra wrote Prem Rog for Raj Kapoor, she wrote Chandni for Yash Chopra, so there was a connection. But it was very far off. That world was still very very far off for us. But then when I started, and when I started as a journalist, I had really no idea what to expect. I'd graduated from St. Xavier's, English lit. So like, what do you do with your life except go into advertising or teaching? At that point, there was no third option. And I was like, okay, let me try this. And I just loved it. I fell in love and then said, I got to learn how to be a journalist. So I went to Northwestern University. I did a master's in journalism.
Wow.
I worked at Harper's Bazaar in New York for a year, but all I ever wanted to do was write about Bollywood. And then I came back in the early 90s when like nobody ever came back from the US,
Really?
and people were
This
like,
sense of
yeah,
failure or some parent in trouble health wise, those are the only reasons. Yeah.
yeah. And it was funny because when I did my interview for India Today with Mr. Arun Puri, he was like, "Are you serious? You've come back from America because you want to write about Bollywood?" And I was like, "That's all I want to do," and he gave me the job.
Wow. And did you remember the first film which you had to sort of look at from your different perspectives, your professional skill
From a
set?
critical perspective, perhaps it was like Aankhein, which was Chunky Pandey, Govinda, and a
Oh, that
monkey.
one. Oh, right, right.
That
Yes,
one, like
yes, yes.
way
Yeah,
back,
yeah, yeah. This is like late 80s,
way
early
back,
90s somewhere. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Got
early
it.
90s. This was
Yeah,
93 or 94, I want
yeah,
to say.
correct, correct. I was in
Uh,
college. I
um,
remember the film. Yeah. How can you forget the. Okay,
you
Did
know,
you remember what you said? I mean, you mentioned the monkey. I'm sure you went to town a little bit. Yeah.
yeah. But I remember that piece was more. It wasn't so much a critical appreciation. It was more about what a massive hit Aankhein was and why it perhaps worked. So it wasn't like a. I don't remember the first one I reviewed, but somewhere along the line at India Today, they said, "Well, you're writing so much about cinema, also start to review it." And that's where it began. I think somewhere in the mid 90s.
Hey, could you rate them in performance? Govinda, Chunky, and the monkey? Like gold, silver medal, bronze? Who's the best?
Which I have to share, which reminds me of another fabulous story I have is earlier, before I started working, when I was still in college, was the VHS. 80s was VHS, right?
You're telling me South Bombay VHS, this is our life.
Correct.
Growing up,
This is
video
our life.
jazz, go and borrow 10 bucks a tape. Yeah, yeah.
And the guy used to come to the door, right? With
Yeah.
like वो video library का जो लड़का होता था एक, he would
Travel
come from.
collection. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he would come door to door. So I remember a Jackie Shroff film called Teri Meherbaniya. Okay. And Teri Meherbaniya had Jackie Shroff, and a dog played a pivotal role. And I remember this so clearly that I asked the guy, the kid who had come to the door with the VHS tape, he was like, "Ye dekh lo didi, ye अच्छी picture hai." "Nahi, nahi, abhi आई है." And I was like, "Kaisi hai?" He's like, "कुत्ते का काम बहुत अच्छा है."
Outshone Jackie. That's unbelievable. Back in the day. Now,
back in the
have you
day.
ever rated your actors like that separately? Like, have you ever done a ratings on just like in the old days? How Amitabh Bachchan was number one when we were growing up and all. They don't do that anymore. Have you ever done that?
No,
Like top
no,
five actors of
I've
this
not actors. So I've rated like let's say Shah
perform.
Rukh's films. But not. I'm not so much sort of driven by actors
This,
anymore,
yeah.
really.
Yeah, that's another bias. So once you have that star thing, then it's very difficult for you to not support them, even if you didn't like the film, sort of thing. It'll be difficult. It's a damn tough
Yeah,
job actually, because it's both intimate and personal and all that. The experience of cinema, you can't help getting an emotional kind of connect with different things and all. And yet you've got to not be that. You've got to see it from the lens of just telling us what to expect or not expect in a very unbiased manner, I must say. And the fact that you never get bored. Sometimes there's one day I was talking to a censor board member once, and they have to watch film after film after film, and she was telling me how difficult it is to watch, and she's bored stiff, and they have to pay attention
no,
because
it
they're,
is tough.
yeah, because there are slow movies.
I'll tell you what's really the soul sucking part of this job, right? Okay, first of all, it's not, uh, everybody thinks it's really cushy because what are you doing? You're watching films for a living, right? But it's not. Of course, we're not curing cancer. It's a very, very comfortable job. I will admit that. But but you have to sit through hundreds of really, it's not the really bad ones. The terrible ones are actually fun because they're
Correct.
so bad that they become good, right? And the good ones are already good. It's those middle wale, which are neither good nor bad. You just sit there, and for me, I feel like it's my moral duty to sit there from the first frame to the last. I cannot walk out of a film, and if I walk out of a film, I need to say in my review that I walked out of a film. The only one I've ever left is a film called Cash with Ajay Devgan.
Yeah, I've seen. You didn't like it?
I,
Well,
I couldn't, I just could not, like, maybe it was just the time or the day or whatever it was. I could not bear it. And at one point, it was funny. I'd forced my mother to come to the theater with me to see it. And she just looked at me, and it was a heist film, right? And she's like, ये कौन किसकी चोरी कर रहा है? ये हो क्या रहा है? It was hilarious. But you have to sit through a lot of really bad movies, and that's not easy to do because you also have to bring to it optimism and enthusiasm, and not be cynical and not say, oh, this will just be rubbish. It won't. It might surprise you. So you've got to go
also
in
there
with
might
an
be.
open mind.
Arupama, there might be moments you liked in as a whole. Holistically, it wasn't a great film, but there might be
Yeah.
one guy's
Yeah.
performance, one or two scenes. So I guess you have to
Correct.
see everything just for that, because that'll be the redeeming
You
feature,
have to.
which I which I suppose you'll write about also, just to try to make the guy feel better after you've,
I mean, what if the last 3 minutes is stunning,
because it
right?
says the end. Yeah, no, but there are, when you do a 2.5 hour film, I'm sure there are moments which could be, where you could be encouraging as well. I was just thinking,
Absolutely.
you think as you over the years with experience, you become kinder? You think you were slightly more cryptic and now a little more, let's say, seasoned?
I don't know if I'm necessary. See, I'm not harsh. I don't think, though I've been told otherwise by many people. Uh, I don't think of myself like I'm not going there to dislike your film. And I think it's one of the prerequisites for becoming a film critic is you've got to love the movies. You can't go in there saying I will love Shah Rukh Khan romances, but I will uh, by default only reject this, or I will love art house cinema, I will love Masan, and I will love the lunchbox, but I will not even give
No,
Rohit
that's like
Shetty.
prejudice. That's like
It
racism.
is
You've
prejudice.
just
It is.
decided
It's wrong. Yeah,
cheap
it's
is good
wrong.
and expensive is flamboyant is wrong and all that. It's unfair.
Correct.
Uh,
Correct. So you can't begin with that. You have to go in completely open and say, okay, what do I like about this? What could I? And it takes a lot of work, Cyrus. Nobody sets out to make a bad film,
Right. I hope
right?
not. There might be
No.
the odd guy trying to clean money. You never know in India, the jugaad culture of the world. We might be having a couple of guys. What was that famous play that Mel Brooks and all
Yes,
did?
the producers.
The producers, but the whole idea was, of course, it goes all right, and then they have a
Yeah,
success. They don't know what to do. But
yeah.
the only film I've seen this year I saw on Saturday was Spider Man with my daughter in
I had so
INOX.
much fun.
Did you like it? I wanted to ask you.
I loved it. I had so much fun.
But I have only one
What did you
problem.
think?
I didn't like the first 20 minutes. I thought, it's really slow in the beginning. of course, then it goes really fast after that, especially the second half, the climax. And let's not give it away. We've kept the spoiler alert whenever we've discussed it. But that whole thing of all these people coming in, etc., etc., etc. And then it was great, the second half. But I was wondering
Yeah.
whether maybe it was just my age or what. I just found the beginning was a little like nothing was happening. I was waiting
Mm.
for some action, and there was just nothing happening. Yeah. But it's cleared $1 billion, and 83 on the other hand didn't do so well with all the hype, and we thought it would be a good film. Would you throw some
I
light on that?
enjoyed it.
So did I.
Truthfully, I had a great time. I don't know a lot about cricket, so I'm not going into it from that lens at all. I don't watch
Hmm.
cricket, and I saw it in a packed hall, and it was exhilarating. We were all. I cried. I we were cheering. We were
Even though you
applauding.
knew we won 35 years ago or whatever, you still
Even though we didn't end.
the magic of cinema. Yeah, I was thinking maybe if the West Indies won, they would have had a bigger hit. You never know. Maybe that the ending was the problem. Yeah. Um,
But did you like it?
I did, but I'm thinking maybe it talks only to my generation in a sense. Maybe it's just lost on people under the age of 40 or whatever, who weren't really around in
Sure.
83. Because I think most of the people watching were of a certain age, or their kids were with them, in that sense.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it wasn't, unfortunately, again, youth driven. It didn't seem to be youth driven for some reason. And I don't know
Yeah.
why, because Ranveer Singh is the youth icon, and so are most of the others who in that film.
And he
But
was so good. He was so good in the film.
he was very good, but maybe that whole knuckle thing that you do after some time becomes more like a comedy thing. Maybe that was, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about the Lincoln performance by Daniel David Lewis with the high pitched voice and all, which I didn't know was real, supposed to be real. As in, Abraham Lincoln had this terrible voice for a great
Yeah.
orator. So
Mm.
even there, I was wondering whether that was overdone, but I think he won an Oscar for that or close.
He did. He
Um,
did.
yeah, and here, I don't know. Would you like to say something on that? I mean, it's a tough one, no? When it's almost going into mimicry, and it works on a comic level very easily because they're really good at doing the knuckle, if you like. But
Yeah.
for three
Yeah.
hours, 2 hours, why else we here?
Yeah. Why else we here? For me, and again, maybe it's I haven't seen so much of Couple Dev in the heyday. Just because I for me, my whole life is sort of around the movies, and cricket never managed to make any inroads. So for me, that performance really worked because it connected with me emotionally. It gave me a sense of the essence, because see, mimicry never works. Uh, it's more important to capture the essence of the person rather than the externals of the person. That's what I think, and I think he did that. For me, at least, I really enjoyed the film and his performance, special.
Yeah. Although having said that, I think we're being harsh to the externals, as you said, his delivery style, all that for cricket lovers, that was pretty good. He was pretty
Yeah,
much spot on. So he did the externals as well. And if you like the rest, then that's a pretty good performance, I would think. But
yeah,
then that's the
yeah,
beauty of cinema, isn't it? That you can't predict what works. Like you said, you liked the film, you liked Spider-Man. Spider-Man worked over $1 billion, etc. Did very well in India as well. And 83 didn't do so well in spite of the hype. So after
yeah.
all these years, they should come to you,
But
right? You'd be the person who tell them this is what you need to make the film a success.
no, no, Cyrus, this is the golden rule of the movies, okay? And there's a legendary screenplay writer named William Goldman, who wrote Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid,
I love
who
that
said,
movie.
exactly, and he said, and these words are legend: nobody knows anything. So in the movie business, Cyrus, nobody knows anything. Okay, you're talking about 83. There's another film called Pushpa the Rise. Okay, Pushpa the
Yeah.
Rise is a Telugu movie which was dubbed in Hindi and released with zero marketing. Zero matlab Allu Arjun, who's a massive
Everyone here has seen
superstar.
it. Everyone working with me
Exactly.
has seen it. Yeah.
Exactly. But this man, Allu Arjun, did not do any interviews. There was no tom-tomming. In fact, the inside cover is ki the guy who bought the Hindi rights, the Hindi dub rights for that film, didn't even think it should be released theatrically. That company thought it's perhaps best to just put it on satellite, put it on streaming, the Hindi dub of it.
Correct.
Then they were convinced ki chalo, no, let's try it. Let's just put it out there. They put it out there. It did 80 crores in
Wow.
the middle of the Omicron wave. So
So note to self:
nobody knows
marketing
anything.
sucks. MBAs are idiots. They waste their time, charge us too much money. Pushpa shows you the way. 83 poor guys did everything right. I mean, we all push the movie, being cricket lovers,
Yeah,
etc., from podcast to TV to everything, and
yeah, yeah.
not so good result in the end. Wow, but that's the romance of life. I love that that you can't really
It
say
is.
for sure.
It's a
Yeah,
artistic gamble in the very real sense of the word. So you can only, Cyrus, make what you love. You can't second guess the audience. You have no idea where their heads are.
really. Also, you would accept then that the variables like what time, whether it's a pandemic, the state of the nation or the globe at that point, these things could affect you, right? I mean, straight away you don't go
Of
to the
course.
cinema, for example. Maybe you don't want a feel good film. Sometimes it's too mushy, with what's going on around you. I don't know. I'm just saying all these things could affect. And while it
Absolutely,
may have worked
absolutely,
for
and
Pushpa,
I'm sure. Yeah, so, look, Pushpa is a larger than life masala movie, right? The kind that Hindi cinema rarely makes anymore, or makes with this level of conviction and hard work. They've really put work into it, and I had issues with it. I found the romantic angle very difficult to digest. I found the length punishing. It's almost 3 hours, and we're not used to that 3 hour sitting time
anymore.
anymore.
Yeah,
And I found like Fahad Fasil, who's this great Malayalam actor, only comes in towards the end. So when I first saw it, I was like, wow, there's so much that's really kick ass about it, but some of it doesn't really connect. But nobody who in those single screens, for all those points, didn't matter, didn't register. They had a great time. Pushpa, the character Alu Arjun plays, uh, is just this massive hero, and perhaps that's what everybody needs at this point, like one of
yeah.
those real old school macho movies, and
Son
they
of the
love it.
soil, run of the mill heroes that don't come
Bilkul.
anymore. Not
They
well
don't make.
dressed. I'm all for the badly dressed hero, less flamboyant dressed hero. No, but that's an amazing. This is a lovely thing. I suppose that's why both sport and cinema always fascinate us, because you can't
Yeah,
predict. If you could, we'd all be multimillionaires, and I mean, the thing would be a joke. But it's
yeah,
amazing. Like what a nice mention this is. Pushpa versus 83. Not to put them down. Both great films. Both films which you can enjoy. You enjoyed both, but only
yeah,
one is done really well, and
yeah.
that's just the magic of cinema. Again, the connect.
And the one Cyrus that nobody thought had anything going for it.
You won't believe it. My studio is full of Marathi speaking, a few Hindi speaking guys by nature. Two or three of them went for the Telugu version, insisted on
Yeah,
seeing a Telugu version, and have come back, hardly understanding words, but they've using phrases and stuff. It's
yeah.
really very unifying force culturally, I would think, that someone from here would go and then watch the Telugu version and come back filled with Pushpa. These are the great stories of India. I will talk to the government to promote these stories, to bring people together, instead of that forced jingoism, which is irritating after some time. We have to take a quick break, Anupama, and Silvery will come in as well. We want to talk about your husband for a couple of minutes as well. I have to tell you my story, because you may not like cricket, but I believe he really likes cricket, and I'll tell you why I know. We'll take a break. The book, Anupama's book, is out there. Please go and buy a copy right now. Where is it available? A Place in My Heart is available on. Where do we get it from?
I think most bookstores, online, Amazon, Flipkart,
Okay.
everywhere.
We'll put in a link explaining everything. Don't worry. Anupama, we are marketing geniuses. As you just mentioned, it's a waste of time to market. So it just connects or doesn't connect, and then people will find the book. And I'm sure Bollywood love is never going to wane. So don't worry about that. Let's bring him in. We are taking a break. Here's Silvery, who's going to be launched by Vidhu Vinod Chopra in his next film
Yeah,
called
absolutely.
Punjabi Munda.
Like,
There you go.
sure.
Very happy to know.
Yeah,
And now they've all come.
we should.
My entire crew wants to, talk to Anupama and Vidhu Vinod Chopra and see if they can get work on the side. It's been
Yeah,
very hard for them, Anupama. Yeah, Kunal watched the movie. My friend Kunal, I don't know if I can show you. I'll try and show you. Yeah,
hi
Hello.
Kunal.
he's like the chief minister. He's a little scared of COVID, so he does his act with that on. And now he's playing a bearded man, but we'll never know for some reason. He's changed his name to Pushpa. He loved the film so much.
Really?
Changed his name to Pushpa. Yeah. And what about young? Say hi.
Hey
How are
Gopal.
you?
Hi Gopal. What's up? Cyrus, you went on mute.
Now you're
Cyrus
on
says you
mute.
muted yourself.
I'm
Yeah,
back.
you're
How
back.
did you
Sorry
do
about
that?
Yeah.
How did you just move the thing and put yourself on mute at the same time?
Cyrus is extra talented, man, with technology.
Your husband's films. I've applied so many times that I will be DOP, but every time he says Chailao for some reason. It's always the same answer. So I was just telling you my story.
Cyrus, we have to take a break.
Oh, we haven't taken the break yet?
No, the
Oh, we're
break.
taking the break. Here's the break. The break. Presenting the break. Take a listen.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On The Habit Coach, former Mrs. India Madhuri Sharma shares her fitness journey and the experience of working towards winning a beauty pageant with Ashton. On Raw and Organic, founder Jitendra Choksi tells Kunal what it was like building his fitness community fitter. Should the government impose a price limit on film tickets? The Pulyabazi hosts contemplate this in their new series Ek Sawal Kahi Jawab. On Tere Mere Raaste, Keshav travels to New Mexico and tells us all about it. And on Marathi Kirkitun, the Deshmukhs talk about insects and their part in the cycle of nature. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms you're listening to us on. And also remember, you can check out a lot of our stuff on YouTube. Go to ivmpodcast.com/YouTube and you'll get a list of all the various channels that we do have. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Bank of Baroda and CoinSwitch Kuber. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Yeah, so Anupama, you got to remember this voice, Amit Doshi. We're trying to sell this voice. So you want him to present your programs, or pesh karte hai, that kind of voice. And he doesn't do that. He does it like a soft lyrical sort of voice. So it's just keep it in mind. We'll give you a special rate. No, so I was just saying quickly before Sylvie takes over. So there was a film called Kareeb many years ago, and we had gone as MTV to shoot with your husband in the house. We came to the house in Bangalore, and there was a match going on. And he just won me over because he said we have to finish the game. So he and I sat and watched the match. And my crew, not all of them into cricket, had to wait like 45 minutes because like 10 overs left, and we watched the game. Yeah. And it was like, he talked to me like we were old school buddies and all that. We just sat and discussed cricket. And half the interview on Kareeb went into cricket as well after that. So I had very fond memories. Silvery.
Yes.
It's about time you reconnect yourself with Bollywood through Anupama's eyes. By the way, she's a South Bombay girl. She's one of us. Spoiled. Angrezi types who hate going to the suburbs. And look at the karma. Now she has to live there.
I'm from the South Bombay of the suburbs. I am from Powai. So I think I kind of understand what you guys are going through.
Beautifully put, beta. Lovely. The reverse sweep in cricket, we call it. Well done. Yeah. So just one quick question on Vidhu Vinod Chopra. So how does he react to your criticisms of other people? Does he ever interfere and say, Anupama, be careful, whatever, or is he very happy?
No.
Or is he scared of his wife and better not? Huh.
No, I don't think he's scared of me at all. But the truth is, we've kept Cyrus very purposefully. We've kept our professional lives apart because I think it can become the wire. Anyway, your wires are crossed, right? When you're married.
And you're both are very high profile in the business. You as the person who looks at them and they're all scared of you. Let's face it, whether they like it or not. And he has one of the super successful filmmakers of his time. So that's a very strong nexus.
Well, we keep the nexus as sort of like I don't, sometimes he'll ask.
What's dinner like, Anupama?
Sorry, what's dinner like?
We both love cinema, and there will be arguments. You're both passionate and highly opinionated. So tell me what it's like. Would you argue about films?
Yes, absolutely. Because the films I love, our tastes are very different. Okay, so because his training first of all is the masters of the 50s and the 40s. So V. Shantaram, Bimal Roy, who are all great legends. But the movies that speak to me are like Sholay, right? So it's a generational difference. Plus, of
are
course,
you calling him old on a podcast that stays forever? Why would you do that, Anupama? Please take it back now. That's what you just said in so many words. Yeah. Okay.
But there's also his FTII education, right? So he's a massive fan of he's watched all the Fellinis and the Truffauts and all the French New Wave and it's not that I don't respect that or love that, but for me, I'm into slightly more massy. My first responses are to story, to characters, and I have a vast love in my heart for all things Yash Raj and Dharma and Shah Rukh, and he doesn't have a lot of patience.
Who doesn't like Shah Rukh?
No, he doesn't not like Shah Rukh, but I remember this so clearly, and in fact, it's in the book when we watched Kal Ho Na Ho at a preview together, okay? And Yash Johar, Karan's father, used to have these incredible preview screenings at the Ad Labs Theatre in Film City. So we'd all drive, it used to take at least an hour. And then there was this lovely theatre, lovely surround sound, and Yashji would set up a live snack thing outside. So you didn't have samosas and popcorn. That was not his style. Like chicken tikka and stuff would be grilled there, and you would watch the movie and then eat, and it was like a party, right? And of course, Kal Ho Na Ho is it's in fact in the book. It's a film I love despite all its problems, and it's a film that just is such a it's so watchable. It's just so watchable. And Shah Rukh is dying at the end of Kal Ho Na Ho and taking sort of 11 and a half minutes to do it, and just
In
weeping.
spite of all his
And
problems, I'm still recovering from that line. Go on, go on, go on. A film you loved in spite of all its problems. Yeah, that should be the
you
title.
know, so
11 and
Shah
a
Rukh
half
is
minutes to
dying.
die. It was a lingering death. Yes, no doubt.
Go. You remember that death?
Yes,
It took
you gotta
him
love the
a
guy. You're
while.
right. You gotta love the guy. Otherwise, anybody else, you'll be like, get out. It's taking too long. Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm sitting there weeping copiously as Shah Rukh is dying,
Wow.
and I'm supposed to be this hard-nosed critic, right? And I'm weeping.
Right.
And Vinod just looks at me and says, your love for Shah Rukh is going to be your downfall as a film critic.
He got nothing from the 11 and a half minutes. No empathy whatsoever. Khatam ho gaya.
He's just sitting there, कि Rahul mara ki nahi?
Wow. Amazing.
So it's hard. We don't
But
often
you're
watch
looking,
films together.
but you're looking from different angles. He's always looking technical
We
as well.
do.
So
We
that's
do,
okay then.
Cyrus. He's like, वो light देखो, ये
Yeah.
sound effect, ये वो दाढ़ी देखो, this दाढ़ी looks fake. And I'm like, just shut up. I'm enjoying this. I'm into the movie. My other great story about watching a film with him is watching, oh God, why can't I remember the name? So this was during the mafia years, okay, late 90s. So,
Yeah.
we've all now got threats. It's a horrific time, but there's a dark humor to it because all of us now have bodyguards who are carrying real guns. Okay, it's so bizarre. I can't tell you. To live through that was it was surreal, right? To have these experiences where you now had this man with a gun who
But now
went
you miss it
everywhere with
because
you.
nobody's threatening
No,
you. Think of it that way.
So we went to a Iranian Bombay में हुआ था, but it was a festival of
Festival.
Iranian cinema, right? So and Iranian cinema is dark. It's sad. It's tough. It's a tough sit. And so the two of us are watching it with this bodyguard with the gun. And we watched, I think, one or two movies, and then Vinod looks at me and says, we should leave because he'll just shoot us himself. Because these films are so hard.
It was going over his head, or it was just too sad
it's
and
just-
tragic.
It's just so sad.
Yeah.
Iranian films are often very, very, at least those ones at that point were very, very sad, though they make the best films. They're wonderful filmmakers. So that was very funny because he suggested that we just,
Did he say?
we,
Did the
we
bodyguard
stop.
say anything to you guys? I mean, I'm sure you were looking after him because now he's in your world, etc. Like, kuch loge there. Beyond that, was there any kind of conversation? Huh?
Yeah, कुछ लोगे तो हो गया, but he must be like, ये क्या देख रहे हैं और मुझे ये क्यों दिखा रहे हैं? So
But he wouldn't.
it was very funny. It was very funny. So yeah, we've been through.
Make a movie on that guy. What an experience that is, being Zen security and sitting through the other people's lives. Because you're coming from such another world, and now you're watching Iranian cinema, and it's really slow and depressing, and you're crying, and Vidhu Chopra's looking at his watch, and this guy's like, "What am I doing here?" It's fabulous. Just set this up. This is good. I want to watch this.
Yeah, but bodyguards must have like pretty good lives, in a way, because you do get to accompany people, right?
No,
if
but
you're like
I've-
the person
I've-
going on a
I've spoken to-
first class flight, you got to sit in first class.
No,
like a
I
person.
spoke to a guy who was in Shah Rukh's bodyguard, and he was telling us we were waiting for something to shoot. And he was saying कि 5-6 दिन के बाद वो feeling हो जाते हैं. What feeling? The feeling of the celebrityness. जब वो feeling जाती है, तो they hate the job because there's just nothing to do.
It's just a job.
For 5 days, they're all enamored with Chopra, this, that, and the other. No, but day 6, it's like, okay, he's old hat now for them.
You're done.
So they're not, then it's their life, which is for them great, but not for others. They don't have the
Correct.
refinement of these guys, and also they're being forced to watch Iranian cinema. It's a sort of punishment with due respect to art. You can imagine, yeah. It's really funny when you look at it from that perspective. What did he do? The poor guy. Yeah.
The poor guy.
And he probably got one of those really slow films about one orphan youth walking on the streets of Tehran or something. For
Correct.
hours, there's only lighting, and only you're appreciating it in the whole cinema.
It was
And this guy-
exactly that.
Ouch, I can imagine. Yeah. Listen, shall we go to the AMAs? It's already 10:50.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm sure there
A
are
couple of
questions.
things. Just a quick thing. I want to ask Anupama. I have a couple of questions there. I know Anupama, you recently did that sit-down interview with Karan Johar and Zoe Akhtar and
The
Reema Kagri.
producers. Yeah.
Yeah.
The producers one, exactly. You had mentioned that there were some movies that you were really looking forward to, like Jile Zara. You're really looking forward to that. Any other movies coming up in the year, or maybe 2022 and 23 that you're really looking forward to and you like to tell people to keep their eyes out for, maybe?
Well, these are movies that anyway everybody is going to keep their eyes out for. I'm dying to see Rajamouli's RRR, and it was so
Yeah,
disappointing
that's right.
because we were almost there. It was releasing January 7th, I think, and and then of course had to be pushed. So that's a movie I think all of us, I cannot wait to see, because his imagination is just so vast, and so uh, outsized. It's fascinating to see what he conjures up in his head. And I am really, really intrigued by, I really want to see Brahmastra. Because in that interview, Karan was telling me about how Ayan Mukherjee has now worked 7 years
7 years.
on that film.
And Alia's
And
grown up.
it's
Also,
just,
he mentioned, like, in
It
the
sounds
movie.
like it sounds like an
Exactly.
Iranian film. 7 years for one scene.
But I'm just like, that level of dedication and passion. And, so I think that's what makes for great sort of artistry, right? Like, even if the film works or doesn't work, but you put in, that great quote from Roosevelt about, it's not the critic who counts, it's the man in the
Absolutely.
arena. And I'm dying to see Brahmastra.
But what about the slew of pandemic films which will come out? I'm just thinking that'll be a topic for like a year or two. I'm sure
Yeah,
there'll be
yeah.
lots with that in the background. Would we be overdone or overrun by that? Having lived through it, let's just say things get better. I'm just saying. Then again, to have that in your face for 2 years, or the topicality will be accepted as something that makes it more populist. That's a tough one, right? In the middle of this.
I think, Cyrus, if films use it, like, I don't know if you caught, there was a Malayalam film released last year called Joji, which was all set in one house, and the pandemic sort of was there. It was a part of it, but it wasn't the pivot of
Overriding.
the plot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So people wore masks when they were out. There was like, and at one point it was wonderful. There's this scene, and it's a movie about deceit, about betrayal, within a family. It's a son and a father, and at one point, this son who's plotting stuff, he's sitting on his bed, and his sister-in-law says to him, "Put on your mask." And that becomes literal, of course, put on your mask, but also metaphorical, because
Oh,
that's what he's doing. So I think if you use the pandemic in ways like that, I think it'll work beautifully.
my wife on aesthetic grounds says something similar. She says, "Cover your face" to me all the time. It's not necessarily because of the pandemic. So yeah, these things work the way they work. I'm just worried that the same topic will be overdone, and every form of cinema will
Yeah.
have that. All I want to get away from pandemic. My escapism side, that is. Sorry, Silvery.
Yeah, so like for instance, to Anupama's point, like different shows and movies have been handling this a little differently, right? Like on Curb Your Enthusiasm, the last season of Curb Your Enthusiasm, Larry David didn't want to talk about the pandemic much. He was like, I don't want to set my entire show with wearing masks and all that. So I'm going to this base. The last season was the 10th season. The 10th season was set 5 years after the pandemic is already over. So he jumped
Wow.
into the future in the show.
So who's the president? That's a huge question. I don't think Biden is coming
they
back.
Don't talk about it. Yeah, that's a very good question. That's a very good question.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
No,
we should
I
get
can accept that.
Filmmakers will find their own way to kind of deal with it, or completely ignore it, because you're right, Cyrus. I think a lot of us, when we go to the movies, are just not
Trying to get away.
wanting to get away. You don't want to confront
That's
the
why
reality of your
extramarital
life.
affair films work so well. Lots of spouses from both sides are just looking there thinking, thank God there's hope, at the end of the day, and you go back with the same old. Is your husband working on another Munna Bhai? I remember there was one in the works,
Third
and then
one,
of course all
America.
this happened. America,
Yeah.
Chalo
Yes,
America, or
Chalo
something,
America,
yeah. Well, it's an ongoing saga. They have still not found a script that just, so there's 3 of them. There's Vinod, there's Raju Hirani, and there's Abhijat Joshi, and all 3 of them have to be like super excited by the script for this to go forward. They're not those folks.
So it's like
who
our
will do it.
parliament. We can't get the
It is
bill passed until all 3 sign on the dotted line. But
They
my
have
point was
to sign.
with Sanjay Dutt being a slightly elderly, age group sort of thing. I'd like to put my hat in the ring. If you could just put in a good word, okay? And
Cyrus
Silvery,
says, Munna Bhai.
why not? What the hell? Before it's too late for cinema. Okay, sorry. Let's take a couple of questions. We haven't taken the AMAs.
Sure, absolutely.
Mr. Silvery. Follow me at Instagram and Twitter on Bored Brocha. I'm so bored, I need your help. I need your love. I need your touch. Okay, just follow me.
Yeah. The first EMA question comes in from Baloni Uno. He says, Anupama ma'am, I used to follow your column called 100 Movies to Watch Before You Die in Pune Mirror. So my question is, are there any new additions to that to that movie list in the last few years?
Oh my God, there are so many.
Well, if you're still alive, that is, yeah.
There are so many editions, and in fact, if you like that, then A Place in My Heart is the perfect one because there are more recommendations. This is a book of recommendations, close to 100 movies to see before you die.
But again, Sophie's choice of, when you write them and then the book is out, you must be thinking, oh, I forgot this one or that one, because you've seen so many, and your cinema influences are not like ours, which is mostly homogeneous, just Hindi and just Hollywood. Yours is now completely, there's no country that's, every country is fair game for you. So you'll suddenly remember, while thinking about Malayalam cinema, you'll think of something there. Then what happens?
Yeah.
Because
well, I'm hoping sequel, A Place in My Heart Part 2.
Yeah. But what about the other book? I hate to keep bringing up this point. What about the 100 movies you shouldn't watch? I mean, I don't know. This is dirt. We discussed in the beginning. The dirty side in me. I really am excited for that book if it was to come out. 100 movies which. Like Cash, for example, it'd be like, this is the reason. The plot was so bad that my mom herself said after 5 minutes, pata nahi robber kaun hai or chor kaun hai or whatever. That's it. That's the premise.
I do a worst films of the year on a listicle of my worst films of the year. So you must watch that. It's on YouTube, and you have to see. And like I said before, it always does better than my best films of the year.
Does Shah Rukh ever get featured in the other side since he's the favorite?
Worst? No, so far not.
Bias.
Maybe
bias either.
Ma'am, maybe you didn't watch Dilwale. Okay, fine. Sorry, moving on.
Hey,
Happy New Year. Sorry.
We are all Shah Rukh fans.
Not
Be
like
careful.
Sorry.
Be careful. Correct.
Go on. Yeah. It's all right.
All
We're
right.
nepotistic and all those wrong things. You might as well be honest. We have our list of favorites. Don't touch Shah Rukh. Leave something in India. Unfortunately, nobody else is listening to us. Sorry, next one.
Yeah. Parijat Mishra asks, Anupama, how do you deal with masala movies as a film critic? Often such movies get average reviews, but the masses fall in love with them. Do you judge them on different parameters than usual?
No, for me, the parameter of judging is that does this film deliver on the promise it makes, right? So a masala movie makes a different promise. It's not so. In fact, Rohit Shetty had told me this, that why do you go into a Udupi restaurant and say I'm gonna be unhappy because it's not serving French food, and he's absolutely right. You cannot go into a film that Rohit Shetty
But it would be
makes
funny if you just went there and said, "Yeah, I'll have the pheasant in glass, please." Yeah.
But you can't go into those films and say, but where is the subtext? Where is the nuance? Why aren't these characters more layered? Right? Why I'm going into that film, into a film like Suryavanshi, is to have a roller coaster ride, is to be gripped, is to get that
What
movie
is Pushpa?
high.
What would you call Pushpa?
Pushpa is that. It's absolutely the masala film which is trying to give you a movie high. For me, it didn't deliver wholly, but there are moments like there's set piece sequences, like the interval sequence is just fantastic. It's such a adrenaline rush to see something like that. So your judgments have to come from what is the film. You can't just say that I need, of course, you need engagement. Bottom line is it has to grip you in some way, whether it grips you with storytelling or with great songs or with just making you afraid. It has to evoke an emotion in you. And that's the only criteria, really.
So there's a full scorecard where you either like it or don't, right? Which is separate from everything else. It's like comedy, good or bad, is regardless of that. Did you laugh? It's like that. So did you like it? So that's one parameter, right? That's a fair one. I always think we start getting too sophisticated in our minds and thinking there's more to it. The first basic premise is, did you like it? Whatever the hell film it is and however it's presented. Yeah.
Cyrus, did it engage you? I think the worst sin in cinema is to bore an audience, right?
Name the directors. Give us a list. Top 5 balls of Bollywood.
I need that bodyguard back then, Cyrus.
And he'll insist on putting the Irani guy in as well in the list. Yeah. So sorry. So not to bore you is rule number 1. Yes.
And I don't think that, we define entertainment in a very sort of dumbed down way. Ki, hansi aani chahiye, ye hona chahiye. Entertainment is engagement. It has to engage you. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw a film called Don't Breathe, right? Well, it's a thriller film about this blind guy and these kids who go into that house.
It's a slogan for COVID. Yeah.
Or it's a slogan for COVID.
Yeah.
And this film genuinely, Cyrus, like you go in and it's not like, oh, there'll be great character arcs there, or some moral lesson that you take home. You don't. But for those 120 or 140 minutes, you don't breathe because it's so damn suspenseful. It's so damn thrilling. It's so damn scary. So for me, that's it. That's what a filmmaker has to do. I'm here to have my buttons pushed. Please go ahead. Manipulate me. I have no problems.
No, Silvani, there's a lesson that you take your notes from both of us. We are wiser than you. Please understand.
Yeah, sure.
It's like I'm studying Othello with my daughter now for her school thingy, and I thought it would be really boring in the beginning, but he's so gossipy. The very first scene where they're just bitching and moaning about Othello, and it's just so contemporary because it's just a couple of men bitching and just being mean and racist as well. But that's all really still there hundreds of years later. It's lovely. I love that. You just get what you get from whatever, and if it works, it works. That's the lesson. Anupama, for some reason, has frozen now. The moment we said, give us a list of boring directors of Bollywood, boom, frozen.
I'm frozen.
The moment we waited for which the sponsors put money on the table, and now it's gone. Yeah. If she doesn't come back, is there one more comment which doesn't involve her, in case we've lost her link?
Most of the questions are for her. But there are some
I'll take
asking...
them.
There are some questions... Okay.
I think it's the anniversary of Jalwa. Oh, she's back.
I'm back.
Girish,
I'm sorry. I have no idea what happened.
Don't worry. I think one of the directors you made fun of, the Irani guy, he's got a lot of pull with the Wi-Fi in our area. Sorry about that. Be very careful. The question was 35th year of Jalwa. I did a movie called Jalwa many years ago. I mean, I was a 14-year-old kid, and it's the 35th anniversary. Did you ever see that film? Pankaj Parashar?
Of course, I saw this film. Of course. Okay. One of my favorite scenes in Jalwa is when who was it? Was it Farooq Sheikh
Satish.
who leans into the Satish
Kaushik. Satish, the Amitabh Bachchan thing.
No,
Where
they
he says he
lean into
knows
a
him.
car and says "Picha karo," and was it not Jalwa where the taxi just chases without letting him sit
I've seen
inside?
that in Octopussy, where Vijay Amritraj tells to follow the car and just carries on the taxi.
Listen, I have very, very happy memories of Jalwa.
Nasiruddin Shah reinvented himself, became like a mainstream hero. It was a bit ahead of its time. When we saw the film again later, it should have done better than it did. But I think it's a bit ahead of its time in terms of the way, or maybe they didn't accept Nasir as a hero in that way at that point. Who knows what the answers are to all that.
Yeah.
35 years. Yeah.
Ma'am, are there movies that we would be surprised you have never...
Stop calling me ma'am.
No, yes. Anupama, are there movies that you would be surprised to hear that you have never seen?
That's a bit informal, Anupama. I didn't say Mrs.
What do
Chopra.
I say?
I don't know.
There are only two options.
No, come on, man.
Okay, what?
There's a line between respect and disrespect. What to stay there?
Sorry,
are there movies
that we would be surprised you've never seen? Like, say, classic like Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham, by chance you've not seen, or The Godfather or something.
Yeah. No, there are, of course. So there are, I have to say that there is a big gap in my, so this is one of the times when Vinod gets to have his snob moment. When I say, let's say, like I saw 400 Blows only a couple of years ago, Truffauts, and
okay, now you're telling us like we are Truffaut addicts who watch everything in French and Italian cinema. Okay, this is Powai and Malabar Hill. We have no clue, so you have to set it up. Yeah.
So he was always okay. So I haven't seen Fellini's 8.5, and he's a big snob about that. He's like, how can you? How can you call yourself a film critic and you haven't seen that? So there's enough of the world classics, the canon of world cinema, that is a big gap in my education.
Have you seen Battleship Potemkin?
Yes, I have. I've seen Battleship Potemkin.
Thank God. That's enough then. Then you can go straight to Sholay. You don't have to in between a lot of rubbish films.
Each way, it's all good.
Ho gaya. Yeah. One here, one there, and we've covered the whole gamut. All right, sorry. Sylvie, can we take one, two more quickly?
Yes, a couple more, yeah. Bruce Wayne asks, Anupama, how do you maintain the balance between being an honest critic and not bruising the ego of the actors / directors?
But I asked her this question.
Yeah.
She's sort of
Okay.
answered
I have
trying to find
answered.
the balance, and she's accepted that it's not always correct. I mean, possible. But what the hell, if they're getting paid enough, you can make fun, I would say. If they make about 30 crores for the film, you should be allowed to abuse them a little bit. Family abuse, over 50 crores. Community abuse, over 100 crores. It should follow. There should be like a menu. Right, Silvery?
Yeah, absolutely. Correct.
Is not even paying attention. Young
No,
people don't listen to anything we say here. So the country is going
absolutely.
nowhere because you youngsters have taken over, and see what you've done straight away. Long pants. Everyone's wearing long pants. What the hell's going on? Yeah. Go on. Next one.
Okay. Next one is from Shavik Bakshi. He says, he has quite a few questions. 1 second, sorry. Yeah, Shavik Bakshi says, every individual has biases based on family, friends, school, college, etc. How hard is it to set aside all those biases and watch a movie as only a piece of art?
No, so you can't, Shavik, you don't set aside biases. You can't be a different person when you watch a movie. So when you see a film, you bring all of yourself to it. You bring your biases, you bring your education, you bring your interest in art,
Leanings.
you bring everything. You bring everything to it. I think the key is to not let it blind you. I mean, the fact that I love seeing Shah Rukh on screen does not mean that I will think Dilwale was a good film. Uh,
Huh?
you know,
Silvery, तूने क्या
so
किया? तूने क्या किया, Silvery?
no, it's
Open the
true.
bag
Man's
here.
thinking,
Don't open the bag.
It is true. So you can't, because how can you take that out of you? That's who you are. I have. It's not. I mean, I'm just uncomfortable watching a lot of gore on screen, right? So when things get violent in a very bloody way, I like literally sometimes I have to close my eyes because I just find it very hard to stomach that. But that cannot get in the way of me appreciating a Quentin Tarantino film
Or
because
Texas Chainsaw
everybody
Massacre. That's lovely.
exactly. I haven't seen that.
It's a
That's a
family
gap in my
film.
knowledge.
Just sit with the
It's a
family and just
family.
watch all the blood and gore. It's just everybody's happy. I love that film. My grandmom's favorite. Yeah.
So you can't let your biases get in the way, but you can't take them out either.
Yeah. I guess you do what you can. I mean, this is ridiculous to expect anyone to be so completely neutral. I mean, that's madness.
You
No
can't.
human being can be. Yeah.
No,
All
no.
right. Let's take.
And
Yeah.
Cyrus, a review is a subjective opinion. It's one person's opinion. It's not a fact.
Well, some of them are facts also when you read them and they open your eyes to certain things. Yeah. All right. Let's squeeze
Okay.
one more in.
Yeah.
Quickly.
Sure. This one is a little serious. But I've actually seen your ma'am's video on this. Girish Patil asks, ma'am, why did you choose not to review SSR's last film, Dil Bechara? Was it to avoid political mudslinging and trolling besides the respect to Sushant?
It was I just felt like the conversation had become so ugly at that point that I just felt like no matter what I say, it's never going to be seen uh, in the way that I mean it. And whether I like the film, and I'm not somebody who would say that I love the film. I didn't. I saw it later, and it was not a
You couldn't
particularly
sugarcoat it and not look bad about it because that would be what it was. Yeah.
yeah, I just find I found that it was and it was a point at which first of all there was so much, and somebody had died. It was a very, very difficult time, of course, for his family, also at a larger level for the film industry, because it just went into this other loop of what was going on, and I just felt like I would just add to the noise, and what I would say would only be used as either a for or against argument, and it wouldn't be I wouldn't be speaking to what's in the frame. It would not be a review. No matter what I said,
Yeah.
it would be construed
Fair
as
enough.
something else.
You can't
That
take
was
the
it.
whole system out of the situation. It's all there now.
You can't.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it
You
was
can't.
too ugly. It was just too ugly.
Like if a minister made his debut as an actor, you wouldn't be able to review it without mentioning he's a minister. I mean, that's there.
Yeah,
It's part of it.
yeah,
Yeah.
it is
Which
part
reminds
of
me,
it.
a
Absolutely.
couple of them have. But as we end, I just want to ask you one last question. You were you have been on so many eminent juries and all that. You know people like Spielberg and the works, all the famous people of the world.
I don't know.
Your husband
I
himself.
don't know them.
No, but I'm sure you can put in a kind word. Here are the two desperate faces of actors who need work. Three of them actually. They're all looking for work. You can tell Viduji,
I guess.
Spielberg G, and any other G that you can find. They're very cheap, and with makeup, they look respectable 60-year-old men. So please keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Even if it's
I
a
will
project like
sign it.
Chernobyl or whatever, we're okay. I mean, we'll find a frame for them somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Silver, you
So,
want to be part of that?
no, I have the great last question to end on.
Alrighty.
if ma'am would oblige us.
Yes.
Divyesh Vijayakar asks, oh, Vijayakar, wow, another Vijayakar, man. So,
Oh my
Divyesh
God,
Vijayakar
there's
asks,
too many.
yeah, if your book was reviewed, if your book was reviewed by the standards brought out by Film Companion Reviews, what is one aspect that you'd want to hear about in this book review?
Wow, that is a good one, Divesh. I would want to know that did it add value to your life in any way? Could I add anything to your choices of movies, to your movie experiences? I hope it does that. That's really the aim in writing it. So if it does that, then I'm happy.
Wow, a place in my heart. So basically, let's just tell people this is also a recommendation list where how to and where to find these films. It's not just talking about the movies, but even like a logistical sort of set of films which you can go and look at. So it's a bit close to the 100 films to see before you die column thingy. So it's an extension of that also. All right.
Yeah.
So Anupama, thank you so much. Your check is in the mail. We are now paying our guests from today. So
Yay, rich at last.
There you go. And please come back to South Bombay. We miss you. And so we can make fun of everyone in North Bombay. Come on. Come on. All we have is the bitching in the morning. I go back to Othello. That's all we do all day is crib. So please come back so we can crib together. Yeah.
Absolutely, Cyrus. It was so lovely. And thank you so much for having me, all of you.
Young man, also silvery. He's only 16 years old and he works so hard. Yeah.
Oh,
the beard is
16,
because
correct.
of the vaccine.
Yeah, that's right.
The vaccine he's taken 4
Yeah.
times and now he's got this beard. Just a little kid. Yeah. Bye, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay, catch us on any of the podcasting apps, please. We beg you. We need you. Send us your questions on Twitter on Cyrus Says In. Or you can email us, even if you're not female, on whatcyrussays@gmail.com.
सफर, रास्ते, मंजिल और मुकाम अक्सर ये हमसे कुछ कहना चाहते हैं, पर हम हैं कि अपनी रोजमर्रा की जिंदगी में इन्हें सुनने से कतराते हैं। नमस्ते दोस्तों, मेरा नाम है केशव चतुर्वेदी और मैं आपको ले चलूंगा कुछ ऐसे सफर पर जहां आपको एक नया नजरिया मिलेगा सफर और मंजिलों को देखने का। आइए इन किस्से कहानियों में डूब जाएं, हर मंगलवार और शुक्रवार।
Are you looking for finance products and services that can enhance your personal finance experience? Are you looking for a space to talk about your financial product or service? And are you looking for a crisp talk show where the conversation is all about money? Well, your search ends here. Hi, my name is Anupam Gupta and I'm host of the Paisa Paisa podcast, and I invite you for the conversation about your personal finance on each Monday on the IVM podcast app or the website or on any podcast streaming platforms. See you folks.